Oh my god. Why this spot? It's got a repeller. Why this spot over and over and over again? Well, I'm not starting over. On a higher no. 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 Where are we gonna find the militia thing, do you think? Outpost! Coin toss, really. You know, the outpost rebuild doesn't cost anything, I don't think. So let's get this. Let's go beyond this gas-powered Russian. Oh, ooh, oh, wow, that gets fucking expensive quickly. Yes, now Sarge is doing the heroic thing and lugging around a Gatling gun, which is a weapon far too large for any normal human being to wield. I'm also curious about, like, 5th generation mutant. Okay, how are we making a distinction between generations? Are the mutants breeding? Do they go through Pokemon evolutions where they, like, age to a certain point, then they get tougher, like they're leveling up? Were the mutants created to fight the zombies? Is there some evil doctor at work? Okay, well, the minigun's effective, if a bit crude. I still prefer my sniper rifle. Oh, piss off. Ow. I mean, honestly, if people want a minigun that could theoretically be wielded at the hip like this, there was something like that in the works called the microgun. Getting stun locked, people. It's happening again. Explosive wielding pieces of shit. Invited you to this party, dog. I think I'm like season 4 Rick right now, probably, or was it season 5? I don't know, it's been a long time since I've seen The Walking Dead. Usually with The Walking Dead, you can identify the time based on where they were. Season 1 was outside of... what was it, Atlanta or something? Season 2 was the farm. 3 was the prison. 4 was that whole disaster with Terminus. when they were on the move heading for Alexandria. Then 5 was like the first season in Alexandria. So no, season 4 Rick right now, I think, you know, rip out that guy's throat with his teeth, Rick, is what I'm thinking. God, at that point I was just thinking, well, it's about time Rick developed a pair. People talk about Rick crossing a line with his buddy Shane there, you know, killing him like that. It's like, the son of a bitch was leading him out to kill him. What, you think because he didn't actually... Everybody expects the sort of Hollywood notion of the hero doesn't shoot first because of the ambiguity of maybe the bad guy would have had a change of heart at the last second. Yeah, ask people from the Old West what happened when you hesitated and didn't just put the fucker down. There's a reason it was called The Quick and the Dead, not The Quick and the Heroic. Shane leads his ass out there to fucking slaughter him because he's getting too big for his damn britches. And Rick knows it from the start. He knows it and decides that no, that ain't happening. And he fucking offs him. And he should have.
Good to see you.
Shane had been ghosting him from like literally episode 3. Well, no, because I'm not even sure he'd been to the camp by that point. Season 1! Shane was ghosting him before the end of Season 1. Oh, God, that is nasty in there right now. That is so fucking expensive. We'll wait on that for a moment. I gotta do a direct action. I don't really have a choice in the matter. Because I need to lower the threat by a lot. I suppose rage upgrades would have been another good investment. Get a little extra oomph when I take too much damage. Still, at the rate I was dying, it wouldn't have made any difference. I'd have been dead before I had a chance to take advantage of it. Now you assholes can stop raiding my fucking zone. Still a 47% danger level. Yeah. Yeah, have you ever just gotten so pissed off your gun shoots faster and deals more damage? Oh, that's like the logic behind Psycho in the Fallout series. You take a drug and your guns do more damage. Like, what the fuck? Like, it's a video game, jackass, don't read so much into it. Oh no, I know, I understand that. I still think it's fucking goofy. I mean, you could have a drug that improves the character's accuracy with firearms, which makes them more effective or something like that, but increasing base damage of a gun because you popped some Psycho? Are you... what? Who's shooting at me? Well, look on the bright side, guy. At least you didn't glitch out of the map. You've had that happen before. A weary number of times.
I'm ready.
Oh, there you are. Oh, recruitable soldiers. Bunch of them. Ah. Right next to a fucking cistern. Of course. More recruitables.
Okay, let's go.
You're not coming with me until I finish the defense though, because that would... that would probably be a little bit disastrous. To mine or not to mine? Mines are fairly ineffective, but I brought them with me, and in the very least they can slow the bastards down. So we're going to mine. Hey guys, I didn't expect you guys to be body blocking me while I'm trying to set up some defenses here. Can you piss off a little bit? Give me some distance, some room to work, maybe. Or not, just keep getting in my way. Sure. So you do this in Mech Commander. Any mission where you were on like a defensive assignment and you had access to that mine layer, if you knew the paths the enemy was going to take, you just planted mines all over that. Oh, that gives me a subject of discussion, even though I don't know how organically that's gonna cut into the final thing. So North America is infamous in the international world for our fondness of cluster munitions. Or, if you're a visitor of TV tropes, recursive munitions. Bombs which explode into smaller bombs, which can potentially then explode into even smaller bombs, and so forth and so on. I would say ad infinitum, but that's, that might be going a little too far. The point is, the reason that that's something to be infamous about is because there's a big problem with deploying large quantities of smaller explosives and UXO, which is unexploded ordnance. Because all of those bombs are manufactured in a factory. And as we all know, we live in an imperfect universe that is measured by imperfect rulers and functions by imperfect means. And the problem is that no matter how good the factory is at maintaining the quality control, it is a mathematical certainty that statistically some of those bombs are going to come out with faulty triggering devices. What that means is that basically they're not going to... Either they won't detonate when they're supposed to, or they are going to detonate when they're not supposed to. Why you have locals in these, you know, underdeveloped areas where the American army operates that end up getting arms and legs blown off or straight up killed because of some mine or bomb left behind. So Americans' fondness for cluster munitions led to a few interesting inventions, which are equally excessive, brilliant, and probably inhumane. One of which was the notion of deploying anti-vehicle mines, which is what these appear to be, especially given the form factor, that disc shape. Deploying anti-vehicle mines using artillery. No, you didn't mishear me. We would fire a shell that was hollow, and rather than packing it with explosives and so forth, I mean, it was still technically packed with explosives, it would have a bunch of these, like, flat, disc-shaped mines stacked on top of each other, like pancakes. And the thing would break open over the target and disperse its anti-tank mines over the intended area. And of course, you wouldn't just fire one shell, you'd fire many shells, dispensing many mines. And the idea was that you could basically create a minefield without actually having to have people go out and jeopardize their lives to set it up. Which, of course, increases the likelihood of unexploded ordnance, because a mine is an indiscriminate tool. Anyone or anything that sets it off and gets the consequences for that. And we were literally just, like, scattering them in places we did not want our enemy to go. The thing was, the mines themselves were not particularly tamper-resistant. So infantry could go in and carefully remove the mines to clear the way for vehicles. It only had the effect of really slowing the enemy down some, and apparently somebody was not satisfied with how much it was slowing the enemy down. So instead of... So what they did was they took the same basic shell that went into the artillery piece, and they designed an anti-personnel mine deployed using the same method that fit into the same space as one of the anti-tank discs, but was more of like a pie slice configuration. So some genius had the profound idea of taking these artillery-deployed anti-personnel mines, which you would deploy after you had fired your volley of anti-tank mines. The idea being that the anti-personnel mines would overlap and cover the anti-tank mines and prevent them from being moved by dismounted infantry or explosives and ordnance disposal, because the anti-infantry mines you could afford to fuse a little bit more sensitively. So they were tamper and jostle resistant. And the idea was that when the enemy tries to remove these mines, they're first going to have to deal with the anti-personnel mines, which love going off when you try to move them, before they can actually safely remove the anti-vehicle mines to move their vehicles through. And some genius got the idea of taking those artillery-deployed anti-personnel mines and actually turning them into a hand weapon.
Help me to get out of here.
I believe it was called the Pursuit Deterrent Munition, the idea being that you handle it like a grenade, pull the pin, chuck the fucking thing behind you as you run away, and it automatically arms and deploys itself as it would have had it been deployed by an artillery piece. And the name, it's right there in the name, Pursuit Deterrent. Basically, somebody chasing after you, once you deploy that, they're gonna hit it, probably. which will deploy the mine, and once the mine deploys and they realize that, fuck, there are mines, they're going to stop. They're going to stop pursuing. It deters pursuit. And again, the issue was with the anti-tank mines, we'd probably be deploying 100 over an area, but in terms of the anti-personnel mines, we'd be deploying like 1,000. Which means that unless the factory producing these things had a margin for error of 0.01%, in which case there would still be one faulty anti-personnel mine, you're going to get a bunch of mines that don't go off when they're supposed to, because they're designed to self-disarm. After, like, a week, they're supposed to self-disarm. Which is not actually the preferred option. Self-detonating is the preferred option, because even if they disarm, you still have a wad of explosive just waiting for something to accidentally trigger it. So, yeah. And then, yeah, the locals have fun for years, getting their, heads blown off by American mines. And so our solution to that was to design a new cluster bomb. Instead of getting rid of the cluster bomb, we just made a better one. How long have I had this? Okay. No, I don't have the money. So no master, which means he must be at the factory. Along with the shelter. Well, then I guess I know where we're going. So we came up with a sensor-fused weapon. And the idea was that, rather than a minefield... Rather than a minefield, the sensor-fused weapon is a targeted weapon, which is intended to strike its target, and if it fails to find a target after deployment, not do anything.
Okay, let's go. Listen to me.
Wow, the mass of enemies is comparably small. That's the thing, the international community attempted like a memorandum or something about no more usage of cluster munitions in warfare for the potential humanitarian cost it can create. And America was like, nope. Can't live without our cluster bombs. And our artillery-deployed minefields. So we designed these guided munitions called skeets. And the skeet can be thought of as an explosive anti-armor hockey puck, which is launched through the air at a spiraling trajectory, using a laser rangefinder to scan and create a virtual map of the ground, searching for what it has been programmed to identify as the silhouette of an armored vehicle, like a tank specifically. And the sensor-fused weapon contains 10 sub-munitions, each of which has 4 skeets, so 40 skeets. And while dispersion kind of prevents it from functioning in this fashion, it could theoretically destroy 40 armored vehicles in a single drop with targeted munitions. Not to mention secondary fragmentation damage for anti-infantry work. And we also designed an active area denial system, which was, again, intended to be a more, a mine that is less... Hey, you're an actual soldier. And those skeets are used in that, too. And the idea there is that you have this apparatus which scans its environment actively, and when it detects targets without, like, friendly IFF, like radio IFF or RIFF, it deploys either an air-bursting grenade if the target identified as an infantry target, or it deploys a skeet if the target identified as an armored target. And like, that was our attempt at trying to appease everybody that, like, see, look, we made it so that it's not going to be terrible for the locals once we're done shellacking the shit out of whoever happened to piss us off this time. And all that high-tech, all that bullshit, and yet the Vietnamese made us fuck off with a bunch of sharpened bamboo and hand grenades tied to popsicle sticks. Oh, I love the idea of, like, military arts and crafts, of literally, like, somebody taking a couple of sticks or fence posts and making some kind of weapon of horrible effectiveness. I mean, something I'd like to recommend as recommended viewing, and I know that not everybody is as much like a mecha fanboy as I am, but, like, Bandai or Bandai Namco or something did a YouTube original series called Obsolete, which, it has some interesting, like, geo-economic, notions of an out-of-context, benefactor, the exo peddlers and all that. I could go on about the potential implications of that for an hour. It's like Orwell or H.G. Wells level of intrigue without a clearly defined answer, and I enjoy that. But there's also the fact that these machines, which are provided like way cheaper than they ought to be for what they can do, by aliens. These machines are basically available to everybody, which means that, like, the big economic superpowers, like North America, who have these expensive tanks and jets and air defense systems and all that stuff, suddenly the playing field with everybody else is leveled because these alien guys are giving everybody the tanks. And the leader of the secret American exoframe unit points out the fact that the battlefield changed that day, or rather, it was returned to the way it was. No longer, you know, economic geopolitics, just man versus man, their will to fight and survive against ours. And I kind of like that notion of, like, militia and guerrilla warfare, where, to some extent, you can't lean on all this sophisticated military-industrial complex. You gotta get fucking creative. Because there was a thing in a trailer for Metal Gear Solid 2, not 2, God, no, 4 a while back, where Snake is trying to procure a weapon. I don't know why he keeps dropping in without one. He's trying to procure a weapon, and he finds an AK lying on the ground, and he starts prodding under it with a knife. And this, of course, highlights the fact that Kojima, as usual, does his fucking homework. Because when we were doing operations in Iraq, a fun little thing Insurgents decided to do, and it's funny that something similar happened in Nam, and those two groups are completely, like, unrelated to one another. But something the Insurgents would like to do is just leave an AK lying around. Why would they do this? Well, because the Americans were sort of under orders that we don't want, like, dissenting local populations, basically insurgents in their minds, even if they weren't. We don't want, like, dissenting local populations having excesses of guns or so forth that they could use to snipe, and we don't want the insurgents to have access to guns either. So, if you find a gun lying around, collect it so we can store or dispose of it properly. And for a while, that was just it. You found an AK, because the damn things are a dime a dozen, picked it up, you brought it back to the armor, it was disposed of properly. But then the insurgents got funny ideas. Hey, what if we strapped a fucking grenade buried under the ground to these weapons? And that way, when they go to pick them up, they pull the pin on the grenade, and a few seconds later, kaboom! Especially because there are some, like, old Soviet grenades, which is, by the way, what they were typically using. Leftovers of the Soviet occupation in Afghanistan. In fact, a lot of the improvised explosive devices used by the insurgents was Soviet stuff left over from the occupation. Some of those Soviet grenades can be set so that they're not time-fused, so the moment the pin is pulled and the spoon or whatever is set, it just goes off immediately. So now all of a sudden these GIs try, like, picking up these guns, and then a grenade goes off under their feet and kills them. And the thing that the Vietnamese did was that rather than, like, leaving weapons lying around the jungle, because how would you honestly even fucking notice in that, like, dense bush? No, they had this trick where they created an improvised tripwire landmine that was operated by, a grenade. Like, the explosive weapon was a grenade. They tied it to, like, a bamboo stick, set it in the ground, and then they tied the pin to a trip line anchored to a tree or another bamboo stick. And the thing is, standard disarmament procedure is that you can't consider something disarmed until you have removed either the detonating element or the explosives. So if GIs were fortunate enough to find this grenade mine without setting it off, they would, clip the thing and retrieve the explosive, and then it would be disarmed. The problem is, again, for a while, that worked, that was fine, until the Vietnamese started having a second grenade buried under the stake of the first one with a string tied to that stake. So what would happen is the GIs notice the mine, cut the tripwire, pull the stake out of the ground to remove the grenade or whatever, and they'd end up pulling the pin on the second grenade hidden under the first, and then that fucking thing would go off. And what Snake was doing, prodding around under the rifle with his knife, was feeling for a tripwire to make sure that the AK was not rigged as a booby trap.